Hey everyone, welcome to watching this video on Unwind Your Wounds with me and Melinda. And today we're going to be talking about PTSD, but it's not what you think. So PTSD is what? Post-traumatic stress disorder, right? So that sounds gross. So Melinda has a new way of looking at it. So Melinda, why don't you talk about your PTSD?
Well, my personal PTSD, no, I'm just kidding. Here's the thing. The way that I'm seeing it, talking with so many people and facilitating and stuff like that, is that there's this energetic frequency that people can call PTSD, and it's anything. So basically, anywhere you're going to the deny, defend, dissociate, and disconnection thing, and everywhere your body is locked into an abuse or a trauma, and it's replaying this energy over and over again, that can be a form of formal PTSD that people go to doctors for, they get medication for. But also I'm noticing there's this epidemic of this more lighter version of PTSD where people are just sort of on high, their adrenaline pump is constantly moving. That's a form of constant stress that, we're not even basically looking at as an issue because it's become so normal. So that's what I'm sort of addressing, and everything in between, basically. So what I'm calling PTSD, I'm inviting people to, is instead of looking at it like, well, I have PTSD or I'm feeling this PTSD sort of an energy, I'm going to say, what if we transmute that into every time that it comes up, how about if we look at it like, this is now, instead of post-traumatic stress disorder, why don't we start to look at it as the possibility of transmuting stress directly? So the moment that it shows up, we can now, instead of labeling it, that when you said the label, it feels gross because it feels heavy.
Well,
right?
And there's a lot of meaning given to it, right? So
Right.
when people identify with it for some reason, I think that certain labels have become almost like they say them like they're a victim of them. However, it's like, oh, look at me, I have fibromyalgia. Look at me, I have PTSD.
Right.
It's like, but don't you want to get rid of it?
Exactly.
Or do you want to keep it? Like, because sometimes I think people want to keep it because it's their identity.
Yeah. 100%. We're identified a lot with what's going on in the mind, especially since we're having this discussion with the ego earlier this morning. So the thing is, what I think, what keeps that sort of old stress in place, that post-traumatic stress in place, anything that's abusive in your system, in your body, in your soul, in your spirit, all these repeated events are these anxieties and stuff. Anything that activates that, anything that bombards you with an energy or impels itself onto you, what happens is we start to go into this reactive mechanism, and it could have been one event or it could have been multiple events. We start to create this matrix. It's a system, and society calls it post-traumatic stress. This keeps you trapped in this sequence that you don't really think that you can get out of. So the body locks you in this abuse and this trauma, and the body locks it into itself. That's why we have so many of these wonderful body, processes and modalities that help to release the trapped emotions right out of the body. So what happens is this locked energy gets triggered every time there's a reminder of the abuse. It could be a sound alarm, it could be a visual trigger, it could be a text or a conversation. So the way someone responds to you. So it's like when that occurs, it's like you're right back into the past, and you can't break free from this energy that maintains this resonance within you. So
I don't think it's even like I don't even think it's like you're in the past.
Yeah.
Your body remembers it and makes it present because your body doesn't understand. Well, subconscious doesn't understand time, right? So it doesn't understand past. So the minute you start feeling it, it's living it again.
And we want to get out of that. So again, I'm all about the pragmatic tools, 100%. Yeah, and we're literally, like you said beautifully, we're literally trapped in like 1972, 1985, whatever it is, that moment, that time, we're brought back in there. And right in that moment, we go unconscious. So what I want to ask anyone who's participating or listening to this call, how many things or people do you have in your life right now that you have decided that you cannot lose? Now, this is an interesting thing. How many, and a lot of times we don't even give it a lot of thought, but how many choices are we making based on, I can't lose this, I can't lose that, I can't lose this person, I can't lose my kid, I can't lose this. And it's not even really cognitive. It's something that is just an energy that plays in the background. And how much post-traumatic stress does that activate when you get really present to it? So this fear of losing is really a big part of what activates so much of that energetic frequency of this post-traumatic stuff, that type of an energy. And it's a sense of, I'm going to lose something that I have determined I absolutely cannot lose. That's running in the background, which is really running the show of your life. And you may not
also
even...
you know, the what if game that people play?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
what if this happens? I don't know if you've ever done it, but I've done it where I'll be thinking about something and I'll say, okay, well, what if this happens? And then you start going into the imagination, right? Yeah. Where, you know, our subconscious looks at imagination as real. It doesn't know that it's fake. So you sit there and you go into your imagination and you start imagining it. Yeah. And then before you know it, it's like, okay, if this person says this, then I'm going to say that. And you're like, you're working your way through it. And before you know it, you actually have emotions coming up about it. And you've put your entire self through this stress and this trauma for something that never even happened. Exactly.
So it's all this stuff being played out in the mind. It's all a mind tripping, head tripping stuff. So I don't know, Ayse, I was thinking it would be kind of cool or fun to kickstart right now with a little exercise. Would you be okay with that?
Yeah, it'd be great. I would be great with that. The one thing I want to mention too, though, that's really important when you're dealing with PTSD, or what was it that you called it again?
I called it the possibility of transmuting stress directly. So imagine every time you get that angst, this is possibilities arising. So in other words, your situation, just another way of helping us get a little present with what's occurring. So when we get that, that jab or that sound, or that you could feel the adrenaline pump starting to go, I'm in a possibility right now, a possibility of transmuting this stress directly. And then I'd like to discuss a few tools of, okay, so now what? Now that I know that I'm in a possibility, now what?
Yeah. There's a few other things that people have to, I think that are important to mention before we go into this exercise, which I'm excited to do. Okay. One is sleep. You know, sleep is super, super important. I think when we're stressed, especially when we're heavily stressed, where we've actually labeled it something, we don't sleep. And without sleep, our body's not repairing. Without sleep, we can't function, and our inner biological clock is being thrown right off, and we actually can't deal with a lot of things. So sleep is really important. And I know that every time I work with someone with any kind of depression or whatever it is that they're dealing with, it's always, I can't sleep follows that. And we can sleep. We have to remember that we can sleep. And if we tell, our body knows how to sleep, it's innate. We know how to sleep. It's just that when we tell ourselves we can't sleep, we can't. So we have to, work on sleeping without pills. I think that's the big thing too, because the pills do not take you into the sleep that you need to go into to repair and rejuvenate. They just allow you to close your eyes and get into like a more upper level of sleep, but not that deep sleep that you need to get into to repair. The other thing is, when we're talking about military or let's say first responder PTSD, I think what's going on there, and I don't think I kind of know what's going on there, is that a lot of times, especially with military, we're being asked to do something that's against our grain.
100%.
So it's against humanity to just pick up guns and things and just kill people because somebody told us to, or made us believe that it's an okay thing to do that. So whatever your belief system is around that, humanly, like way on a deeper level, it goes against your grain. Yeah. Right. So you can't turn around, like for instance, in Christianity and a lot of religions, that it right in their books, it says thou shalt not kill. Yeah. But then they'll turn around and join the army and then they'll kill.
But that's one of the greatest mechanisms of PTSD, is when you're choosing something that is completely against innate. Yeah. And even the choice, whether it's picking up people and killing them, that's a really intense thing.
It is an intense one. Yeah.
Or if it's a choice of being in a space of abuse, which is also goes against innate, a violation of self, and where it doesn't even make sense to the sacred, gentle being, the soul spirit, that another one could perpetrate this. Doesn't even make any, it can't even compute that. It can't even process that. So there's that
and allowing it, and the allowance of it.
Yeah, and so it's where this mind thing is like overriding, where the mind has to override body, soul, spirit. That's when this post-traumatic stress starts just to slam into the body, and then it starts to lock in as pockets of, from mild, irritation or upset or sickness, to like where you're talking about military PTSD, which can come out as really intense and would require a tremendous amount of therapy to start to work through that. So that's on the other spectrum, which I wouldn't personally want to touch into too much because I'm not a psychiatrist. But yeah, that's what you're talking about right there, is we're going against something fundamentally where our spirit is like, this I can't process. It's not what I came here for. And you're in an experience, or you're making a choice. Like if you're choosing, and we think that, well, I'm not choosing to allow this abuser to abuse me, but not choosing to choose something different because we're afraid, that is also a choice to allow it, which also creates another level of anxiety and stress on top of this other thing, because innately, this is not correct.
Right.
It's not correct. And yeah, sleep, oh my God, sleep is like, to me, sleep is the most precious thing.
I wouldn't survive without, like, I've said for years now, people say, how do you sleep the way that you do? Like, I sleep, honestly, you could probably come and clean out my house if it wasn't for my dog while I'm sleeping. And because I sleep like the dead. And I've said it though, I say it all the time. When people say, how do you sleep? I say like the dead. I've said it forever, right? So I tell my body that that's how it's going to sleep. So that's how it sleeps. And, it's amazing the power that we have over ourselves. So when you say you can't do something, you're right. Mm-hmm. Just keep that in mind. If you say that you can't, you are absolutely correct. So,
right, and you mentioned you weren't a great sleeper like forever. You trained to that. It didn't happen like this. You worked on it. You made a choice. This is changing, and then you did what you felt was right for you to create a different reality for you, which means sleeping very well.
Right, exactly. And it's just, it's simply like, even when menopause hit, all of a sudden I've got night sweats. And that's like upsetting my sleeping of the dead. Like, this is right? What is this? What is this thing that wakes me up all sweaty, right? So then I went into, I'm so lucky that I've never had any menopause symptoms.
That's so funny. I just told my body we're not having it. And I didn't do it. Yeah.
2 weeks, it was gone. And I know not only did I not have that menopause symptom, but I didn't have any of the others either.
Yeah, me too.
Right? So it's just, we can do what we want. So if we say like, oh my God, I'm going to get menopause and this is going to happen and that's going to happen, and we believe it, then yes, you're right. It will.
That's a great example, because I remember I was getting that like the night sweats, and I'm like, ooh, I don't, this is, and I said, body, we're not doing that. I just simply just was like, no, body, we're not doing this. But I repeatedly, and it never crossed my mind like, this is a thing that's going to occur, or I'm afraid, or I have to take, I was like, I'm not having it. I'm just not having it. I'm just choosing. It was very interesting. It wasn't like I'm trying to force myself not to have it. I'm thinking about, I never thought about it. I was just like, I'm not having it, and that's it. And nothing showed up. It just dissipated.
No, you're right. Because I think what happens is, and what we've been trained traditionally, about me unconditioning the conditioning, what we've been trained is to believe that our body, that we are a victim to our body and to what happens, and we don't have any say over that.
Right.
And that's absolutely untrue. So we have all the say over. I wish I'd known this years ago. Do you know what I mean? I would still look like I'm 25, guaranteed. So, you are the master. You say what's going to happen. You tell your body what it's going to do, because it's a tool. Your body is a tool. Just like if you're a carpenter, you have a hammer and you have nails. It's a tool of yours to use. The hammer doesn't get up and start doing things by itself, right? So, you're telling it what to do. So your beliefs, your commitments to yourself are the same. So if you believe certain things are going to happen to you, then they will, right? But if you say, like you did, I'm not having this, we're not doing this thing, it's going to stop right now, it will.
Yeah, and the cool thing is I didn't expect, I didn't hope, I didn't wish. I was just like, we're not having it. And if it shows up, it shows up. If it doesn't show up, it doesn't show up. It's also surrendering to not needing to make it go away. I was just like, well, I'm not having that. And there was no resistance, there's no force. It's just, well, I'm not having it. And if something shows up, oh, okay, body, thanks. But remember, we're not doing that. And allow it, and being in allowance for what's going on, and just redirecting it in a way that it's becomes a choice. It's not a force.
Exactly. It's like the difference between wearing flats and stilettos. Either
You got
wear
it.
or you don't, right? So it's like, but you're not upset and you're not stressed about it, right?
That's
so,
right. 100%.
Like, sorry, I just don't do stilettos. Well, I do stilettos, but you just don't, you don't do stilettos, right? Don't do them. And not saying you, just in general, it's a choice you've made. I don't wear flats, right?
Yeah.
So it's just like that. It's a matter of fact. You don't have to prove it. You're not wishing it. You're not praying for it to like, oh my God, I pray I don't have to wear flats. Stuff like that, right? So you just say, no, I don't, and if that's a thing. So that's exactly how you command your body. You don't sit there, like you said, you don't pray, you don't wish, you don't hope. You just say it and it's done.
Yeah. And when if and when something comes up, you're like, no, honey, don't forget, we're not doing that. We're doing something else. Okay. It's like your best friend, like, oh, I think you forgot. It's okay. I'm going to remind you. It's okay.
Right? We can absolutely. I totally agree. So yeah, I want to find out about your exercise now.
Okay, so awesome. So now we're all in a fun, spunky place. Get everybody to close their eyes and take all that beautiful energy and let's just internalize it, bring it inside, bring your beautiful, beautiful, exuberant expression of dynamic living inside yourself. And taking a deep breath, feeling that aliveness in your body. And I'm just going to ask if you can just imagine that you're going to push your barriers down. Just imagine there's an invisible wall and maybe there's a wall behind a wall behind a wall. And let's push all the barriers down. So everywhere you believe, anyone who's suffering any form of that stress that we were speaking of, everywhere you believe that you are stuck in the past on any layer and level of the self, I want you to get a sense of where that energy is, where it's located, in which part of the body. And notice the energy in that part of your body. What does it look like? Is it recognizable? Does it have a color? What organ or system is it connected to? Where is that location? Just get that sense where that stress, that ball of energy is. Visual. And if you don't visualize it, it's okay. The moment I say it, you're doing it. And begin to move that energy outside of your body. Just moving it outside of your body. You are no longer identifying with that energy. It's just moving to the foreground, outside in front of you, about 18 inches outside. And imagine we're going to just dissipate this energy as though we're dropping this into an ocean. And as you drop this ball of energy into this ocean, it begins to dissipate. And who could you be? And what could you be if you were truly willing to let this go? And all of that stickiness in the past, let's just start to dissolve. Whatever your body is showing you now is what it is ready to clear in this now moment. Everything that doesn't allow you to see, sense, know, be, perceive, and receive it, let's let that go. Get a sense of any automatic response systems holding this in place, any coping mechanisms. Let's start to release and let that go. As you go deeper still, just imagine you're just dropping into your heart, into the heart space, and say to your body, speaking to your body, it's time to release and reorient back into 2022. Bringing your senses back to the present moment as we remove all interference patterns, all attack patterns. I'm going to pull up all those interference and attack patterns. I'm going to dissipate those energies, bringing up your innate frequency. And we're going to balance frequency to frequency, frequency to frequency, from point of creation to final resolution, frequency to frequency, collapse that out of your field. And now just imagine there's a bubble of light around you. It's a diamond light, an iridescent diamond light sphere around you. As you expand this out, everything that's within that beautiful sphere, it's your zone of energy. Inside the bubble, there's safety and ease and peace. Now, as you expand the sphere out even more, you're getting more space. Notice the space. And we're allowing the body to now be able to claim, own, and acknowledge freedom and ease, speaking that into the body. Let's drop barriers down even more. And anything that does not allow you to claim the energy of freedom, let's let that go by your request, your demand. You are the master of your journey, and you get to choose the energy that you're functioning from. So all the circuitry that has been broken or malfunctioning, taking you back into the stress or abuse, let's let that go. Balancing frequency to frequency, bringing up your innate frequencies up. Releasing from point of creation to final resolution, collapsing it out of your field. Making the power of the hand of God to healing the circuits, the circuitry, and asking your higher self to balance the chemical and electrical frequencies of your body and your brain now. Balancing left to right, right to left, front to back, back to front. And expanding your zone, expanding your bubble even more, even more, even more. And what would it be like to start to bring more space into your world? Everything that doesn't allow you to see, sense, know, be, perceive, and receive it, let's let that go. And taking a nice deep breath. And just gently opening your eyes. So I hope that was a useful thing. And there's a couple of things in there that are really easy to remember, that when we're in that sort of stressful, intense energy, this is counterintuitive because we want to put walls up, pushing the walls down, pushing the barriers down, and then expanding that bubble of light around you, expanding that, and then giving yourself more space. And know that you have the right and the ability to choose to take a step back. Just because someone is jumping on you to ask you something or something is occurring, you don't have to respond immediately. You can take a pause, just a pause. Collect yourself, expand your zone, lower your barriers. You don't, just because someone asks you to react immediately, it doesn't mean you have to comply because they want you to. Pause. And if they're really pushy, you know what? Let me get back to you on that. Let me have a moment to think about that. Give yourself enough kindness to step back so that you can collect yourself and you can start to get a sense of how you want to respond to a situation. But like I said, just because something is pressing, it doesn't mean you don't get to say, let me get back to you on that. Or have a pause, or be silent for a moment. There's a lot of power in that. That's that little moment where you get to have your power back and you get to get a sense of where you're not losing yourself in that story, in that situation. That pause will get you to bring you back to you. And that's what I like, the pragmatic exercises.
Yeah, no, they're good. And pauses are powerful.
Yeah.
They are super powerful. And I think we forget to do that in this high moving, fast moving world. We forget to just take some pauses throughout the day.
100%.
and breathe, and don't get all wrapped up in everything we're doing, because we're just doing that stuff. Like if you're at work or whatever, if you're at work all day long, that's sometimes it's just doing, unless you absolutely love your job, like you're doing, and you have to step away from that doing and give yourself a pause to be.
Yeah, that's all really useful.
Super cool. Cool. So sleep is important. Exercise is like what Melinda took us through right now is very powerful. Give that a shot, and I'd love to hear comments and questions from people later when they give that a try. And just also honoring yourself. I think that's really important, is honoring how you feel. We look at emotions. I always like to say, think of yourself as the sky and all of your feelings like the clouds. And when those moments come in, sometimes they're nice fluffy clouds, but sometimes they're big stormy tornado clouds, right? So that does happen. But if you don't think of yourself as the cloud and think of yourself as the essence of who you are, which is the sky, then you can see that that cloud is moving. It doesn't stay in one spot, right? So it just keeps on moving, and you can just observe it rather than getting into the middle of it all, right? Go above it. You know how when the plane flies above the storm clouds, just be above it and just allow it to flow through. Observe it, notice it. Don't try to resist it, but just notice it and notice what it brings up in you. Do exercises like what Melinda just took us through, and just be with it till it passes. And who knows, the next day you might be another big storm cloud comes through. But I think the more that you sort of just more observe it, then allow yourself to get all in it in the middle of the storm, then you will find that you now have more control over it.
Yeah, and just because we're making light, and we're joking, we're laughing, we want to keep it light because we want to bring a positive energy to it. By no way are we diminishing in any way anyone who's going through some serious PTSD, because I mean there are many. There's the very light version and a very intense version, like we said, the two extremes, and everything in between. So it's not a diminishment of what's occurring and that you're making the wrong choice or you're doing something wrong. It's that the purpose of this conversation is to give you some tools to just look at it in a different way. And it's not an invalidation of all the years that you've struggled with this. It's well, you know what if you had a choice to change your mind about it? Because sometimes people get so locked up in the story that created the energy, and then it's like it becomes revered. It's like this is the major thing, and making it not significant is almost like, well, you're invalidating it. It's almost like there's this big thing that's on this pedestal that's greater than God, and it's like, well, I can't, you can't dismiss this, you can't diminish it. Well, what if it didn't have the power over you that that sort of mindset gives you? And what if you can go, okay, well, that's where I've been functioning, and it's not wrong, it's a choice. What if something else is here? And what if I can get into this possibility of transmuting the stress directly? And I think that that's a really important thing to take a look at, that it's not a diminishment, but it's a place where, are we willing to let go of this God, that the story that we've made into this God, basically, that rules over us, that we don't have any, we're at the effect of it, and there is another choice.
And don't put so much expectation on yourself. Like I think, it's, you're going to do an exercise or do it a few times, and maybe it only diminishes it a little bit, right? And that's okay. Yeah. Because, just like forgiving people, sometimes it happens in percentages. It doesn't all happen at once, right? You do it a little bit at a time. So every little step forward that you make, even if it feels like baby steps at the beginning, still further along than you were before, right? So, you just start to take little bite sizes out of it until you can start taking some big chompers out. But for now, the little bite sizes just starts to ease that pressure on you just a little bit. And that's okay.
Yeah, love it. And I also want, to be another wonderful place of awareness is an Access Consciousness tool. Is a lot of these tools that I talk about are Access Consciousness tools, which I love. That I think they're phenomenal. So if, people want to know that's what that is. But the thing is that another one of the tools is from Access is anything that feels heavy and dense in your body and contracted, that's a lie. And it's not really the truth of who you are. Anything that feels light and free, that's the truth of your being. So the more of this heavy, dense, contracted energy that gets locked into your body, the denser it becomes, the more that occurs, and the more that it becomes like a depression or problems or the heaviness. And actually then we start attracting more of those dis-ease and discord. And then this blocks all of the light, this vital life force in your life. So the target isn't pretending it's not existing. It's to become really present. Okay, what is the energy we're living in? And to be, like you said, become very present of this energy. And actually what's underneath the energy, looking at what's underneath. What are we looking at? What can we dive into underneath all of this? And so let's look at the way we talk to ourselves, the way that you speak to you, the dominant thoughts playing in the mind. And what if we can transform all of this density? And so that's what we want to do. We want to start with a dissipating of this energy. When we take this energy and we push this energy outside of us and we drop it into this just like this ocean and dissipate it, we're starting to make that choice of taking away that heavy lie. Again, it's really interesting to think about. Imagine just that thought. Everything that feels heavy and discordant is a lie. So how much are we lying to ourselves every single day? How much lies are we perpetrating on ourselves every day? And so everywhere that starts to get in the way, I'm wondering what conscious choice can you make right now? Even if it's a small incremental choice, the choice to, I'm going to choose to breathe out through this problem. I'm going to choose to take a deep breath is a choice, which creates something. If you choose to, you know what, right now I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to expand my zone. I'm going to lower my barriers. That's choice. That's going to literally, a choice like that will create a different day for you. And the things that are going to come into your field are going to be different based on the frequency that you're broadcasting made on that, based on that choice. And as you start moving in this direction more and more, you start to align to a frequency where you're creating a reality that's more of the one you would like to have, not the one that you've been living.
Right. Right. And it's just about changing, just trying some different things, right? Try some different choices, breathing into it, expanding, like Melinda said.
Yeah.
But doing the same thing over and over again, we know what that is, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
If it hasn't been working this far, it's not going to work tomorrow either, right? So if you're doing the same thing over and over again and it's not working and you're frustrated because of it, just don't do it anymore. It doesn't work, right? So it's clearly not working. So let's try something else. And then you might find you need to try a few different things until you find the one that says, oh yeah, that brings a little bit of peace for me, right? Yeah. So that's what you want. You can't avoid it. You gotta face it head on. But again, knowing that you are the master, you can do whatever you want. And if something's not working, and if it hasn't worked for a while, it's not going to start miraculously tomorrow. So you need to try something else.
Yes. And keep doing it. Keep doing this thing. And there's going to be a pull, because that ego doesn't go quietly. If there's going to be a pull, and that it's almost like a pendulum. It's swinging, this pendulum of the stress and this constant triggering and triggering and triggering. It's a pendulum that tries to get you hooked back into unconsciousness. So, and what happens is you can notice that sometimes we form and structure our life around this stress, this post-traumatic stress, or the trauma, or the triggers. We form and structure our life around it to normalize it. So we don't have to look at it, and we don't have to make another choice. We can manage the symptoms. We can, okay, I'm doing this and I can just keep doing the same old thing, but I don't actually want to look at it and change it. That's not a wrong choice. It's an interesting choice. It's not wrong, but there are other choices available to you if you would like to have them, So what would it take to generate and create your life as a creative, joy-filled adventure? And everything that doesn't allow that as a possibility for you, and all the stuff that comes up for anyone listening, when I say, well, what would it take for you to create your life as a joy-filled, creative adventure? And all that comes up, everything that is, that's the stopper and the blocker. Can we let that go, please? Would you be willing to let it go? And so we want to also, again, go underneath the energy, go underneath some of this frequency, because this stress and stuff covers a lot of stuff, including potency. And potency is misidentified and is applied a lot as anger.
Right.
Okay? As anger. So there's a fine line between your potency and intensity and actually being angry. Angry will affect your liver and make you feel really yucky. Potency and intensity, you can be intense, but it doesn't affect your body in any negative way whatsoever. And that's the difference. So you can gauge that difference. It's kind of interesting.
There was a book by Arun Gandhi, which is Gandhi's grandson, and it's called The Gift of Anger.
Wow.
And it's about taking, like, when I'm mad about something, I can clean the heck out of this house. Like, so it's like, it's taking that anger and using it like a fuel for something good, because anger is an incredibly huge energy. So if you want to take that powerful energy and use it and be mad and feel awful, you could. Or if you want to take that energy and say, what can I do with this that's good, that's going to, you know, have a nice outcome, then just take it like, and just think of it like that energy, like gas in your car. And where are you going to go with it? What are you going to make with it?
Yeah.
Gandhi used to use a spinning wheel. So if you see a lot of pictures of Gandhi, a lot of times he has a spinning wheel with him. That's, you know, with all the things that happened in his life, you think that he was never angry? He made a lot of cloth, though.
Yeah.
He used to spin a lot of cloth.
Yeah. And this is the creative expression of choosing something choosing something different. And then, yeah, really bringing that energy out, and then also being able to dissipate whatever is going to allow you to dissipate it. And really, we live in such a contracted space, and that traditional post-traumatic energy tightens, and like you're in a vice grip. So as you lower those barriers and just you push out those walls, because basically this whole cage that abuse has created, and abuse doesn't have to be like really severe. It could be, you know, being yelled at, or emotional abuse, psychological abuse, emotional blackmail, being gaslighted. That's all abuse. Okay. And that all of that creates triggers and mechanisms, coping mechanisms that cause a lot of stress and anxiety. And the way that we disassociate, defend, disconnect, all these energies literally build these walls of this cage, or these bars of this cage, but we have the key and the lock is on the inside. And so and that's our ability to say, you know what, something else is possible here, and I'm taking charge. And it's really difficult sometimes because it looks like I can't, because this thing outside of me is bigger and stronger than me. And that will make you always feel heavy, because it's always a lie. So what is and a really great way to just even start to identify that is to ask yourself the question, what is the lie here that I'm buying as real and true for me? What is the lie?
Isn't the big scary thing, isn't it actually in the cage with you, and you think it's outside the cage? So you're hiding in the cage with it. But, you know, if you step out of it, it's just the unknown is on the other side of it.
Right. Well, the unknown is and all that's why people have a tendency to want to stay in there, because it's familiar, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it takes courage to open that cage door.
You're in there with the monster. You need to get out.
Right.
Just imagine, if you stay in the cage, you're with the monster. You need to get out of the cage.
Yeah. So and identifying it by asking, what is this, and what's the lie that I'm buying, and just, what else can I choose here? Universe, show me. Universe, engage. Universe, what are some options here that I have? Universe, show me. Universe, show me something different. And then just be willing to allow the wisp to show up, because the thing that the ego likes to do is, the second that you start to ask a question and you get a wisp of a knowing, the mind goes and starts to negotiate with it and compartmentalize it and put it into some really fancy theory. It's like, no, just take that raw material, that wisp, and getting a sense of, okay, well, what is that? What is that? Curiosity, like when you were like 3. What does this do? What happens if I do this? If I put my finger here, if I do that, that's that curiosity that allows you to engage and allows things to show up for you. So you're just flowing with life as opposed to trying to function from a predictable future that is going to be safe. And it doesn't work that way. It just keeps you in that cage.
Right.
With the monster. There you go.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Melinda. This is such a great conversation, and I think I'm putting it in the podcast. It's good. It's good.
Oh, awesome. Good. Yeah, it was fun. Lots of excitement.
And again, what is that PTSD? What's your?
This is the possibility of transmuting stress directly. So every time you go, oh, I'm in a possibility here. The possibility of transmuting stress directly. Barriers down, expand your zone, allow yourself to pause, give yourself a moment to say, hold on a second, I'll get back to you on that. Let me get back to you. I don't know right now. I'll let you know in a few minutes. Give yourself the grace of space. Oh, that rhymes. I like it.
The grace of space. There you go. That's awesome. Right. And always honor yourself. And I think that's a big one, and thinking about, and we'll kind of end this today on the feeling of honoring yourself. Many of us dishonor ourselves. So, and it's that lie, it's like living the lie that you were talking about. So dishonoring yourself. How do we live in a space of grace?
I love that. And that's a question right there. How, universe, show me how to live in a space of grace. I'm ready to choose this now. I am ready to change this. I'm ready to dive into. Beautiful. Love it.
Yep. How do I live in a space of grace? That's awesome. A space of grace. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
And we'll see you guys again in a couple of weeks. Bye.
Bye.